What is up guys, Ghost here, bringing you some gaming news today. Not my usual gig, I know, but a lot has happened in the past week. We've seen the PlayStation 5 officially announced, Red Dead Redemption 2 for PC as well, and Blizzard have put themselves under fire for banning a pro Hearthstone player for voicing his opinion on the protests in Hong Kong. So let's kick things off with the PlayStation 5 and possible effects that might have on Battlefield. So Sony have officially named the console as the PlayStation 5, thank God it's not PlayStation 1 or something equally backwards. The console will be releasing in time for holiday 2020, which comes as little surprise. We suspected the console had long since been in development and would be available fairly soon. The console will feature new controllers with haptic feedback similar to what you will find on your modern smartphone as opposed to the older Rumble feature, an SSD hard drive, finally on a console, and a custom AMD GPU with support for the new ray tracing feature and 8K resolution, although I'd assume that's not native 8K but rather downscaled. The most powerful graphics card on the market today, the very expensive 2080 Ti, is just able to run some of this generation's newest games at 4K with a steady 60 to 70 FPS, and that's with a slew of other expensive PC components. Given that gaming at 4K 60 FPS is a relatively new concept for high-end PCs, I cannot see in what universe the PS5 is going to be running games at 8K. This must be some clever marketing from Sony, but bottom line, it's got some new bells and whistles and will be a more powerful box for all your favourite games. So what about Battlefield 2020? Assuming DICE are going to stick to their 2-year development plan, as is their recent trend, we'll be getting another Battlefield title around November 2020, which lines up nicely with the release of the new consoles. This is undeniably a good move from EA's point of view, if we're talking about making money. The PS5 will be a big hit and want to have some solid release titles, and it'll have backwards compatibility for at least PS4 games, so even if you didn't upgrade immediately, you could still play it when you pick up your new console. But I don't think this would be a good thing for the Battlefield franchise. Don't get me wrong, I'd love a new modern Battlefield title as much as the next man, but it can't be a repeat of Battlefield 5 or they risk putting the series dead in the water. Talking about Battlefield 5, the game will be free to play no less than 3 times this month. You can play the Rush game mode on October 10th through 13th, Conquest the following weekend, October 17th till the 20th, and Grand Operations the third weekend, October 24th to the 27th. Additionally, the War Stories, aka single player campaign, will be available to play through on all of the weekends. I honestly don't know why they're limiting the game modes each weekend. Most people will only try the game out on one of those weekends anyway, so why not just let them have the full experience? Sounds like EA are getting a bit worried about the upcoming release of Call of Duty, if you ask me, which is shaping up to be the biggest game of the year. No, quite literally, the thing takes up a whopping 175 gigabytes of hard drive space, which is absolutely massive, even for this day and age. Additionally, we've learned some details about the game's co-op mode called Special Ops, which is a 4-player match-made activity doing either an operation or a mission. Operations are centered around interconnected experiences that take the form of objectives, each culminating in the removal or destruction of a key logistical aspect of the Al-Qatala army. You can go in quietly or tackle the insurrection head-on with the enemy reacting to your team's decisions, meaning the outcome of any battle can change. And then missions can be played solo or with up to 4 players, and are more of a curated experience where your proficiency with specific weapons, kill streaks, and other tools will be tested. These offer a high degree of replayability, and you're able to achieve a 1, 2, or 3-star ranking based on performance. As far as Special Ops Survival goes, that's the wave-based Horde Zerg mode that puts you and your mates up against recurring waves of enemy forces, and it'll be an exclusive to PS4 until October 1st, 2020. So another game that's likely going to be eating up your hard drive this November is Red Dead Redemption 2, made by Rockstar. An absolutely cracker that released on PS4 about a year ago. The first one was a PS3 exclusive, and although it also released on PS4 later down the line, it never made it to PC. Rockstar, of course, doing their classic act of only announcing a game literally a month before its release, but if GTA 5's PC version is anything to go by, then this will be an absolute stonker. I think it's safe to say we can obviously expect some graphical enhancements over its console counterpart, such as increased draw distance, better textures, lighting and shadows, but beyond that, the game will include 3 new bounty hunter missions, 2 additional gang hideouts, 2 new treasure maps, and extra weapons for the story mode, none of which I have the faintest idea about because I have purposefully kept myself away from this game so that I can play through it undisturbed when it releases on PC, and that time is almost here. Additionally, if you pre-purchase the game through Rockstar Games' new launcher before October 22nd, you'll also receive a free upgrade to the Premium Edition and 2 Rockstar games of your choice for free, including Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, San Andreas, LA Noire, and Max Payne 3. Normally, I don't recommend pre-ordering games, but let's face it, we all know Red Dead 2 is an awesome game, and I mean, what's one more game launcher to add to your collection, eh? On a sad note, Doom Eternal, originally set to come out this November, has been delayed all the way until March of 2020. id Software and publisher Bethesda announced this on Twitter, with the reason being they want Doom Eternal to live up to their standards of speed and polish, which sounds like a really good reason, to be honest. I'm a bit bummed out about it, but let's face it, November is already chock-a-block with great games, so I don't think I'll get bored. And finally today, I wanted to comment on this whole fiasco with Blizzard. If you haven't heard, professional Hearthstone player Blitzchung has received a 1-year ban and had his tournament winnings revoked for expressing his political beliefs during a tournament interview. Now, if you're not familiar with what's been going on in Hong Kong, there have been protests there since June against proposals to allow criminal extradition to mainland China, which essentially boils down to totalitarian mainland China stepping on the toes of Hong Kong's democracy. So Hong Kong is a former British colony, handed back to China in '97, and ever since, Hong Kong has had its own judicial system, legal system, and they are a democracy who protect basic human rights, such as freedom of assembly and freedom of speech. China are totalitarian and dictatorial and require complete subservience to the state, which is why many things are banned in China, and games and movies have a history of self-censoring certain things to appease the Chinese market. Just recently, South Park was banned in China for making fun of this very subject. Apparently they didn't think it was very funny. So this player basically just wore a mask and goggles akin to the protesters on screen during this interview and called for the liberation of Hong Kong, saying, "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our time." That's all he said. The casters hide their faces and then the stream cuts away rather abruptly. So Blizzard's response to this is not only to suspend this guy for essentially exercising his freedom of speech, but they also had the 2 casters fired, presumably for not shutting this guy down or whatever, which seems pretty harsh. Blizzard defended their decision, stating that their competition rules state that engaging in any act that, in Blizzard's sole discretion, brings you into public disrepute, offends a portion or group of the public, or otherwise damages Blizzard image, will result in removal from Grandmasters and reduction of the player's prize total to $0. That's one of those legal clauses that's just ripe for abuse. It's not very precise and can be misinterpreted. It essentially comes down to if we want to get rid of you, we'll find a way. It's that clause. So this decision by Blizzard was obviously made to protect the company, protect their Chinese investments. And it felt really heavy-handed, as if one of the higher-ups demanded that this guy Chung be made an example of to deter future players. You're probably familiar with the company Tencent, the creator of many popular mobile games, shareholder in pretty much any gaming company you can think of, and owner of Riot Games, who make League of Legends. Also, they have a 5% share in Activision Blizzard. Activision also recently released their new Call of Duty mobile game, a game that was based on a previous iteration that had been tested in China, the world's biggest mobile gaming market. On top of that, we are literally right around the corner from BlizzCon, where you can bet your bottom dollar we'll be hearing more about that infamous Diablo mobile game, which they're probably hoping will be a massive hit with the Chinese audience. So it's pretty obvious here, Chinese is a huge cash market for Blizzard, and they're worried about China boycotting them for one of their players speaking out against China. However, the public backlash to this has been swift and brutal, and it's obvious Blizzard aren't going to come out of this in a stronger position. Popular Hearthstone professional streamer and tournament caster Brian Kibler has said we will have no involvement in Grandmasters unless something changes, and has pulled out of casting the competition finals at BlizzCon. Blizzard employees in Irvine, California are also displeased with the situation, as some have covered up 2 of the supposedly core values that are engraved in a sculpture outside their headquarters and read "Think globally" and "Every voice matters." Players have protested Blizzard's response in a recent competition, holding up a sign supporting Hong Kong protesters and calling for a boycott of Blizzard. Even US senators have been getting in on the action, with Oregon Senator Rob Wyden tweeting out, "Blizzard shows it is willing to humiliate itself to please the Chinese Communist Party. No American company should censor calls for freedom to make a quick buck." As you might imagine, Reddit has been going crazy, and many have been posting pictures of Overwatch's Mei as their mascot with various slogans in support of the Hong Kong protesters. People have been refunding games and cancelling their subscriptions. But to be honest, what massive companies like Activision Blizzard care about is their shareholders, not what the common opinion is on Reddit. People usually buy the games anyway, and you can bet your bottom dollar they've done the math on how much money this would cost them and made a decision based on that. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. Will Blizzard reverse their decision? I personally think they'll just stick to their guns and ride out the storm, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be an interesting BlizzCon this year. Even more interesting than last year. And when I say interesting, I mean controversial. With that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Leave me your thoughts and opinions down below. Comment and subscribe and turn on that little bell and all that good stuff. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. Have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next one.